Welcome everyone to the 7th edition of Imagine This Women's Film Festival. Thank you for joining us. This is for the Shorts Program Block 7. Right now, we're going to go ahead and have the filmmakers introduce themselves and give a short description of their projects. Who would like to go first?
I guess I'll go. Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen Bake, and I'm an artist and writer based in New York, although I'm in California right now visiting family. I was fortunate enough to catch the film before I left at the screening in the festival, so that was great. My film is a 2.5-minute animated short about a young mother's, pregnant mother's cravings for out-of-season Korean melon and her grandmother's journey to appease those cravings.
Thank you. And who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Oh, go for it.
No worries. But yeah, okay, sure. So hi everyone, my name is Ronnie Efred. I'm originally from Paris, although I'm right now at the Paris airport, coming back from Morocco from a documentary shooting. Yeah. So I'm the writer and director of Exceptional Talent. It's a short film about 3 female migrants whose visa just expired, and they're seeking for solutions to stay in France, where they've always lived. So, yeah.
Thank you. And who would like to go next?
I'll go next. I'm Alex Mahawi-Ho, and I'm based in New York. My film, Anawa Inti, is about Amira, who's a 33-year-old Arab American woman, and it follows her navigating those different identities and how that corresponds to her obligation to family, to duty, to culture, and specifically to her mother, who she lives with and who is more culturally traditional than her.
Thank you. Next.
I'll go. My name is Harula Rose. I am temporarily in Chicago, although this is also where I'm from. I'm in post-production on a project. And this short that screened is about being in the head of a dog that's almost like a fairy godmother of sorts, a rescue dog that helps out her owner.
Oh, great. Thank you for sharing that. And next?
I'll go next. Hi, my name is Ala. I'm a Yemeni American hard of hearing filmmaker, and my film is called Selahy, which is an Arabic term means my weapon, and it talks about a young deaf girl who embarks in a war zone and has one love, and it's her video camera, and it talks about the disability in living in a war zone.
Thank you for sharing that. And let's see, Joey?
Hey guys, I'm Joey and I'm originally from China, and I'm also in China now, and it's 2 a.m. And my film is called Finding Vega, and it's also my American Film Institute thesis film. It's about a 12-year-old girl who lives in a Chinatown single-room occupancy family with her vegetative mother, has a passionate love for the starry sky. While eagerly wanting to realize her self-worth, she experienced a collision of reality and realized what is important.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And Kellyanne, or if you prefer, Kelly.
Either one's fine, but my full name is Kellyanne Ray Jordan. I am a multi-passionate LA-based creative who serves as an actor, producer, and writer for stage and screen. And my film, Just Friends, is about 2 longtime friends and musicians who make the decision to take their friendship to the next level by going on their first date. With the advice of their family, they head to the date, but they're unsure about what the future has in store for them and for their friendship. And the story was inspired by my grandparents, who were married for over 65 years until my grandfather passed in 2020.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. And I have a couple of questions. I did watch all the films and all the stories are very different. I'm going to start with, let's see, I'm going to start with Ala. If you can just tell me first of all, your story tells a story of a young girl that's in Yemen and her experience with her brother and her family. She's passionate about a camera that she has. Her brother's also a reporter, and she's also hard of hearing. And if you can just tell us, how did you come about telling the story, and why did you choose this story?
Thank you for this question. So I wanted to tell the story because I'm originally from Yemen myself, and my family and I were evacuated from the war. And so when I came here, I was kind of like a little pissed because not a lot of people would kind of know what was going on in Yemen and what is going on through. So that was kind of like a starting fuel to tell the story. And then as a hard of hearing myself, I kind of always wondered, like, we see film that talks about war zones and all that, but we haven't seen film that talks about people with disability in a war zone. So I kind of had my own experience, and sometimes I turn off my own hearing aid not to hear the bombers and anything. So it's kind of like put my own experiences in that film and wanted to tell it in a way that people needed to hear it at the moment.
Thank you for sharing that. And what was the feedback like in your community?
It's still different because, in my own community, and we're still under the war until now. We still need more stories hearing about it. And some people, I think there was some feedback that said there's still hope because of the girl that at the end of the film, that she didn't want to believe that the girl was dead or anything. She was like, no, she must have been somewhere to be found or anything. So I guess it came out different feedback from every community.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with me. So Alex and me and you, if you could just tell us about how you came up with the story, and also what was it like finding the actors as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I came to the story from two different kind of sides. I myself am Palestinian Chinese American. So I wanted to make a story about what it was like to juggle identities and kind of have to bargain between the identities and choose what pieces of culture and identity kind of like melded, and how that also worked against the backdrop of your family and familial obligation, especially to your culture. And then the other way that I kind of came to the story was, I was raised by a series of strong Arab women. And I found that I never saw that on the screen. I never saw that in regards to my Chinese heritage. I never saw that in regards to my Arab heritage. But particularly in the Middle Eastern community, I was, watching all this media and film and TV growing up, and they were just so vilified. And the Middle Eastern community was portrayed in such an antagonistic light. So I wanted to make a film that, one, centered on the lives of women, which I feel like are rarely shown when Arab characters are on screen. And two, one that just showed, Arab women living, going about everyday life and kind of what that looks like. And then in terms of the actors, that was a real challenge. That took a long time because we had very little funding, so I couldn't really pay anything. And also, I know the talent is out there, but when you have the limitations of no money and also must speak Arabic, and then we also have to, we had to meld, Lorena, who played Amir in the film, was Egyptian Irish, and the mother in the film was Lebanese, and I'm Palestinian, so we also had to kind of find a way to meld all that together. And of course, you have to match mother and daughter, so the casting was quite difficult and took a sizable amount of time.
Thank you. But you wouldn't really see that because I did notice that they had a bond that was authentic. They came up, they were really mother and daughter.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I will pass it along to them.
Of course. And Colleen, if you can just tell us a little bit about your film and how you started the project.
So my film Chamoe means Korean melon. It's a summer melon. My mom and I speak quite frequently on the phone, and because she's such an amazing storyteller, she always has these stories about her childhood, about family life, that I started recording her stories. I'm also really fascinated by, the tradition of oral history, which is kind of a dying tradition, but it's such a beautiful one. And this was kind of like my foray into that and my contribution into that. So I recorded a handful of conversations where she talked about how when she was pregnant with me back in Korea, she had this really crazy craving for chamoe, the Korean melon that had been out of season for, a couple of months by that point or something like that. And her grandmother she disappeared for 3 or 4 hours on this really hot day and came back with 3 little melons. And to this day, we don't know where she got them. Like, she wouldn't divulge where. And so I thought this was such an amazing story, and out of those, it was probably like an hour or two, like total in terms of recordings, that I whittled down to 2.5 minutes. Because she also would repeat quite a bit, and it would be like taking from bits and pieces that felt the most rounded out. Yeah, and then I animated it. It took about 15 months to do the 2.5 minutes, and just hand painted it, in Photoshop actually, and yeah, and then I documented the process also, like every 2 weeks on my Substack. So that was also really interesting for people to kind of follow along the process.
Oh, thank you. And is there a reason why you chose to use like TV Paint and Photoshop?
Yeah, TV Paint. I've been vetting since I began studying animation, a bunch of different tools, and TV Paint just felt like the most friendly for me, and also cost effective to use for drawing the lines to do the actual animation. And then Photoshop I used because I really enjoyed the painterly look that I could achieve without, having to go into paper, which felt really like daunting for me at the time.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And next, Joey, if you can just tell us how you came about with writing your story as well.
Yeah, because it's my AFI thesis film, so we have about more than a year to come up with the story, and it should be originally from my nose bleed severely during my first shoot in AFI. I passed out and had a transient loss of consciousness, and I feel like I was just falling into a bottomless black hole fleetly, and all I could feel is that I won't remember anything happened in my life before. As the Chinese saying goes, you can't know about life without knowing death. So that I had a very tough time in quarantine and undergoing the darkest hour in my life, since several of my family members and my best friend, they passed away during the COVID time. So I had this version of rowing a small boat and lonely on the endless sea, surrounded by danger, and the only light above was the stars above. So that to me, they are mother's love. I didn't realize what I had and how blessed I was until I faced the morality and the cruel real world. So that I come up with the story, and I wrap the emotional bedrock and start up in this coming of age story. Protagonist Shin from individualistic to learn what is important and appreciate her mom.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, and I hope things are a little better for you, your family.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Of course. I also wanted to ask you that the mother in the film, she's like in a vegetative state. Did that also play a role in your experience during COVID as well?
I think it's more about how I want to show the film, like, because I use the key prop, the telescope, to show her inner world, and also it represents the mother's love. So that I just want to tell the story and show the mother's love in a silent way, so that I choose the mom to be vegetative state, and then she can just tell the audience to feel how the mother impact on the girl, but now just show it on the screen. And then it's also originated from a Chinese news. That a little girl, she just 10-year old, and then she just save all her saving. She pick up bottles on the street just to save money for her registered mother to have a wedding dress so that she can wear it.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And Roni, if you can tell us how you came about the story of telling the story of 3 exceptional talent female migrants. How did you come up with that story?
So it's actually out of a true story. In 2006, one of the former presidents of France came up with this excellent idea of privileged immigration. So he kind of invented for the very first time in France visas for also artists, but like talents in general, with no further explanation about what talent was. And then actually he started describing the process of privileged immigration as something that is very grateful and easy. And of course, it is not as grateful as it is usually described. So I was really curious to see how people who are already familiar with rich cultural heritage of their hometowns and educations and different education can actually cope with immigration in so-called privileged conditions, but privilege only means that they have already acquired some skills and talents. So I kind of started with this idea of a superhero film because I think that languages, education, and arts are superpowers in some ways. And then I created 3 different characters from 3 different countries. So Israel, Russia, and Japan. So countries where French culture is not something that is very common. And I took it from there and I developed like 3 different characters and their own stories with this very weird balance between their life very, very fully lived and very successful in France as exceptional talents and the impossibility of staying there because of their visa and because of the visa that expired. And yeah, and they I mean, they're varied, but they're not very different in many ways because they're all, like, of course, 3 women. That was really important. And then they're also single and they're very powerful. They're very career focused and they're all artists or engaged in artistic practice in some way. And they're not very old. And also I focus on this, let's say, a kind of community because it's a reality, because there is a lot of uncertainty, a lot of impatience and around this theme of residency permits and about this visa permit that prevents immigrants from living a life that is fully established. At the same time, I mean, we can wonder what a fully established life is. So yeah, it raises those questions.
Oh, thank you. And you're also in the film as well as one of the actors. And I was interested to know how that was like.
So yeah, I play the Israeli character, which is also, it was let's say an inner exploration because I'm both French and Israeli. So for me, playing an Israeli character whose visa just expired and the impossibility of staying in a country I know so well that I feel a part of is something that was really, it was a real challenge and it questioned a lot of things in my own identity. And this is why I chose to take this part as well as directing and writing the script.
Thank you for sharing that. And Kellyanne? If you can tell us, I know you explained a little bit about your film, kind of like what inspired you, but if you could just tell us a little bit about how you came up with the story.
Yeah, I think at the time I started writing it, it was just to process the grief that I was feeling. And that's the story that came out. I mean, I was always inspired by their marriage. I had basically in my life never known anyone who was married as long as they were. They were actually my grandparents-in-law, but they're my grandparents. But yeah, I had never known anyone that I could physically touch and feel and ask questions about, like, how are you able to stay married for so long to the same person? And so I just kind of wanted to navigate that within the story. Seen it, then you'll see how, you know, the story plays out. But it also explores this idea of jazz and women in jazz, because when I was in college, I sung jazz music, and I didn't know a lot of the history of all these incredible women that are in jazz. And so we see the main character, who's a jazz saxophonist, and she's the section leader of her in her jazz band for over the horns. And she's also navigating the lack of respect she feels from her main counterparts. So even though the primary story is about this friendship, but she's also still navigating herself. And both of the characters are, honestly, and I wanted to make sure that I made it multi-layered. Of course, it's about love and friendship, but it is also about these people figuring out who they are and navigating the doubt they may feel, the fear that they may feel stepping into a new situation, because she's also stepping into this new role as a section leader.
Thank you for sharing that. Last but least, we have Harula.
Oh yeah, Harula.
My apologies if I butchered your name.
That's okay. This idea came my way through, actually, I was kind of hired in a sense by Hello Sunshine to come up with their production company. They were like selecting people to tell these kind of modern romantic comedies. And it's a 10-minute short about what happens if, you know, like I like the idea of what happens if you're in the head of your pet, like who like observes your whole life. And that like magical realism has always been important in my life. So like I like it, and I wanted to make something that riffs on in that way. And like if we're in the head of the dog, but it's more of like a fairy godmother character who can sort of see through all of these people that aren't right for her owner, then like she kind of helps her self-actualize in a way and like find her person. So it was just like a fun, cute thing. And casting wise, they were my friends mostly, but we also worked with a casting director to find some of the folks that we didn't know. And it was just a really like a positive process overall. Like I had a good time making it, and I hadn't really made a comedy before, or maybe only once. So that was a different experience, because I'm very used to making things that are much more like intense. And so, yeah.
No, thank you. And how was it? What was your experience like working with a dog? I'm always curious about that.
Oh, kind of a nightmare, but so fun at the same time.
When you watch it, it's kind of like a breeze, but then I guess what goes behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, that dog was so cute. I fell in love with this dog, you know. Yeah, casting the dog was sort of hilarious, because there's like dog trainers, and then they'll send you all of their roster of dogs that they represent or work with. But this one happened to be the one that was right physically, like, but wasn't as trained as the other ones. So it was my cinematographer Joanna Coelho just being very like creative and also just like up for grabbing what we could when it was there, and just like also getting clever with the editors, you know, making sure that we had enough coverage to like put the thoughts in her head while she was looking a certain way. So that was actually a lot of fun too, is like adding the voiceover later, and tweaking it under these expressions that are, you know, a dog. It was actually really fun. So I recommend making a comedy once in a while.
I'm sure that was a lot of fun. And so I'm assuming that there's like casting directors for animals, for pets and such.
Yeah, it was funny. There's like a whole library of like, if you want big dogs, little dogs, big-eyed dogs, like fat dogs, you know, like dogs that make a lot of noise, dogs that don't. I mean, it was wild. It was kind
Oh,
of
I
fun.
didn't know that. And I'm assuming like different colors as well.
Oh my God, everything. Yeah, everything under the sun. I just happened to pick the one that was really right for this, but was also like the least trained.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. And
Yeah.
can you tell us why you wanted a dog that was least
I
trained?
didn't know that actually. The
Oh, you
owner,
didn't? Okay.
the dog trained, it was her own dog that she was like, yeah, she's totally trained. And we were like, oh, cool. And then like, that wasn't really the case. It was a lot of like feeding her treats from her owner, you know, who was there to be the trainer. So.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I think I got everyone, right? Let me see. Joey, did I get you? Yes. Okay. I think I got everyone. If you guys can tell us what were some of the challenges that you face during the filming of your projects.
I mean, yeah, I just was saying the dog was fun. It was also challenging, as we said, but also it was like any film where you just always feel like you don't have enough time usually to get everything. And then having a deadline was also interesting, just like having these marked deadlines and making sure we were meeting those. But that was good. It was a good exercise, actually.
Yeah, and somehow everything seems to fall together.
Yeah,
it always does. And what about you, Kellyanne?
Yeah, I think for me, it was my first time managing this many crew people. Like the amount of crew people that I have was like my first time managing that. And also writing, co-directing, you know, producing. There's just it was a lot of hats, but it really, I feel like the people management was probably the most challenging piece, because was used to working with smaller crew, and everyone was great, but it's just people management. Managing people.
Yeah, I noticed like a lot of you guys not only directed but also wrote, and Ronnie, you acted in your film. What is that like, and would you do it again?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, so for me it was also people management. I can totally relate, and also acting in my own film. So it started from kind of a lack of choice, lack of budget, and but it turned out to be a very good experience, because I think so. I had one of the other actresses, Elena, who is also a friend. She acted. She had she was a Russian DJ, and she was directing me when I was acting, which was very, very nice. It was almost like co-directing, so it was a very nice experience. It's not our first project together, but it's definitely our first film working together in a film. And will I do it again? Most definitely. Yeah, why not? I mean, in the right context, why not? Because I think it's a very nice experience to write. So at the beginning, I'm also the writer of the short. So at the beginning, I was writing a whole different character for a different actress, etc. So to fit in at the end was a nice surprise, and sure, it's difficult, but I'll definitely do it again. It's a nice challenge.
Nice. And what about you, Kellyanne? Would you do it again?
I would minimize the amount of roles that I have. I think I would focus on, you know, the things that I want to do at that time. Like if I'm writing it, I can hand it off to somebody else to do the major things, but it was great to have that experience, you know, okay, there I know where my limits are, you know, or I found out, you know, a lot about myself in the process. I mean, people management, but also managing myself, you know, continuing to learn my strengths, you know, areas where I can improve as a leader, because ultimately that's what's happening, you know. So I would definitely do a version of that again, but probably not all of those roles at once. I would hand off different tasks depending on what I felt like I was, you know, needing to do at the time. But
oh, thank you.
yeah.
And what about you, Ala? What was it like? Because I believe you also wrote the film as well.
For me, I was, well, the most challenging is, if that was the question you're asking, is the fact that had to find an actual deaf actress, because I didn't want to cast someone who would just kind of like act as a deaf. Is, I mean, you could do it, but I thought it would be wrong if I do it. And I didn't, not only wrong, but I wanted someone to perform and play the character authentically. So that was the most challenging for me, because we couldn't find the lead actress until almost like before the shooting in a week, I guess. And, or 2 weeks, if I can remember. And then we just had to work with her. And the fact that she's an actual deaf, which adds another challenge to me on set, that I have to work with her and the interpreter. So it's basically not only directing her, so directing the interpreter as well on how to direct her and translate 2 different languages. And how to perform that.
She was amazing. If you guys haven't seen the film already, do try to watch it. She did a really good job. So is she a professional actress?
No, actually, first of all, thank you for your comment. And no, she's she's never been in front of camera. She's never been on set. She come from a deaf community. We found her in an institute that we were trying to find some deaf kids. We were like, okay, and anybody who want to be interested to perform and act in this film. And she happened to be like, she played on a theater before, I guess. And we're like, okay, let's try her and see what she's gonna do. And so she definitely have never been on set. Okay.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that. She came off like she's done it before. Oh, wow.
She's never done it before. She's never even like she came from a deaf parent, an entire deaf family, so she'd never even been introduced or interacted with the hearing world a lot of time. So that was kind of, I think, a challenge for her as well.
Oh, that's amazing. And Colleen, I noticed that you produced, directed, and wrote. Just wanted to know what that was like, and if you would step back and maybe just direct, and also tell us what that was like.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I started with the recording, so in a way that served as a sort of anchor. But it is true that, you know, one of the reasons that I think I have gravitated toward animation, 2D animation, is it's a shortcut to a lot of creative control. Shortcut seems kind of like the wrong word because it takes so long. But, you know, I can bring anything to life with 2D hand-painted animation. You know, I can take someone turning into a bear, I can have the earth explode, I can have time go backwards, and they all cost pretty much the same in terms of time and so on. But one thing that I have less control over is sound. And I do have a very specific idea about like what the music and sound should be, but it's kind of tough when you can't actually make it yourself. So I think that was the thing that was the most challenging for me. But, you know, going back to your question, would I, you know, step back and just direct? I mean, I think it would be fun to collaborate with other artists. I always see these like huge animated features that have like, or even shorts, you know, like 15-minute short films have like so many people involved. And, you know, I wonder what that would be like. But for now, I definitely do have very specific ideas, and I'm just kind of working on that alone for now.
Thank you. And Harula, if you can tell us, I think you directed, you didn't write this, did you?
Yeah, I wrote it and directed it. And
okay.
I think whenever you're directing anything, you're also helping produce it, just by the nature of what you're having to do, especially when it's anything independent. So yeah, I think, and I just came off of another project where it was like wearing multiple hats. I think it would be really nice to have that experience of like just focusing on the one thing, but I don't even know how I would do that because I really do want to be involved. So it's tricky because, you can be your own worst enemy sometimes, like wanting to know everything or try to control things or whatever. But in terms of people management and crewing up, I mean, we had a good time. And I think a lot of that stuff is like instinctual. Like if you can tell if someone's going to be trouble, you kind of know already. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like the first time you're talking with them, I feel like you can tell, or in my experience, I feel like your first instinct is your best instinct on that kind of thing. And like who you can talk to transparently and openly, like I think those are your people. And I get more and more attached to that idea with every project because it feels very true to me. If you can have like a heart to heart with anybody on your crew, that's like a good sign.
Oh, of course. And Joey, what was it like for you producing, writing, and also directing?
I just write and direct the film.
Okay.
And then, because I think for most of the time when we write, we also use the mind of the director because they just help each other and they grow with each other. And when we direct, we also have the mind of the writer and how we can make this scene like more work in the script and storyline. But I think they could help each other, and it's also helpful the image that we want to show, like in the visual storytelling way.
Thank you for sharing that. And Alex, what was it like, the feedback that you got from friends and family?
It was positive, luckily. But when my family did see it for the first time, they were like, I don't get it. I was like, and then like I got some positive feedback from other people, and then I told my family, and they were like, you know what? I do get it now. But so that was pretty funny. But yeah, it's been really lovely. And I think the most heartwarming thing to me is not only my community reacting to it, but other people coming up to me who are also of mixed heritage, being like, I saw myself, I saw my mother, I saw, my grandmother in this. And that's been just so lovely to hear and always makes me really emotional when people tell me those stories.
Oh, great. And you also wrote the film as well?
I did, yes.
Okay. And how was that experience like?
It was wonderful. I really knew the characters that I was writing because I based them off of experiences that my family has had, experiences that I've had as well. The incest joke at the beginning of the film is literally a direct pull from a conversation me and my grandmother had one time. So it was lovely. It was lovely to give a platform and a voice to women that I had known, and to myself, and to, people who have historically not been on screen. And my grandmother had always wanted to be an actress, so it was fun to include footage of her at the end. And
I noticed that. That was nice. Ala, if you can tell us, what was the perception of your film?
Can you explain that question?
What was the reception that you received from your film?
The perception?
I'm sorry, reception.
I'm sorry.
What the feedback that you received from your film?
Oh, the feedback. I did mention previously about the feedback is that well, the deaf community definitely I felt like, oh my God, that's a lot of pressure. I need to tell more stories about the deaf community because not a lot of people tell their stories. So like, I feel like they were grateful for what happened. And the Yemeni community is still underwater as well, as you see, is that we need to tell those more stories. So I think the same thing, being grateful, like keep telling those kind of stories, which kind of like a lot of pressure and be like, oh boy, I gotta keep telling those stories.
Oh, thank you. And if you guys could just tell us what takeaway or what do you want people to learn from your films?
That's a really good question. I don't want the people to walk away that this film, the impact and the story of it, but the fact that this film was made by a Muslim female hard of hearing filmmaker.
Mm. Okay. And also the impact of the war on children. I saw that over 1 million children are impacted by wars.
Okay.
Some that you don't see on the news. So hopefully people will take that as, will also learn from that as well.
Yeah.
And who would like to go next?
I think I'll go next. Kind of touched on this a bit earlier, but I hope people kind of just rethink how they think about the Arab community and what their perceptions and stereotypes are, and kind of reevaluate that in this world. Because I just feel like historically, especially in post 9/11 world, you know, the Middle Eastern community has been so vilified and just portrayed in such an antagonistic light. And, you know, it's, again, we're just normal people. That's like the best way that I can put it. So I hope they just rethink their perceptions.
Thank you. And who would like to go next?
I'll go next. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You can go first.
Okay. I don't have some big grandiose meaning that I think people should take away from Chamoe, but the film was meant to be a tribute to mothers, and you know, it was a big thank you, I guess. So I hope that when people watch it, maybe they think about comparable relationships, and you know, that it brings like a little moment of light or tenderness for 2.5 minutes.
Next.
Yeah, I would love people to also rethink about what is the most important thing in life, and then also cherish what they have, and not only from the womb to the grave.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll say on the heels of that, it is a love story at its core. So I think for me, it's just like, take chances, because you just never know what can happen. Make beautiful memories and just celebrate, you know, history, and also celebrate love. Like, I think love is a beautiful thing. We need more of it everywhere.
True, definitely.
I would just piggyback off that and say that, like, yeah, staying open to things and maybe like inviting more into your life just continues to invite more. So I think that's where it's
Thank
at.
you. And am I missing anyone? Oh, we have someone that's coming back. I think they got kicked off. Oh, Ronnie.
She's at the airport, so I'm assuming.
Oh, she's at the airport. Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes, she did say that in the beginning. Let's see. We'll give her.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. Yay. I don't know if you heard the question. If you just want to tell us what you want the audience to get out of your film.
Yeah, sorry, I did. Sorry, a small problem. I really wanted people to rethink about the meaning of words. For example, talent, and how we give different meanings to different words. First of all, in different languages, but also like in terms of authorities, laws, and especially within within different immigration policies, and how people who are immigrants should be more talented than others, and to prove their skills constantly, whereas we, like normal people, like with the right, let's say, papers and visas, do not have to prove their existence all the time. So a small topic I wanted to raise. That's it.
Thank you. And if you guys, my last question, if you guys can tell us where they can find you on social media.
I'm Colbay, Colbay, everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. And my animation process Substack is thelinebetween.com with dashes between the words.
And thank you. And Alex?
Yeah, you can find the film at anawainti_film on Instagram. And yeah.
Thank you. Joey?
I'm just typing it. This is my Instagram and my website.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
And what about you, Ronnie?
It's Here is Ronnie. Ronnie's RONY on Instagram.
Thank you. And Harlu? Well, I messed it up again.
No, it's okay. That
Sorry.
happens all the time. It's just my name, Harula Rose.
Great, thank you. And Ala?
Mine as well is the same, and my first and last name, ALAAGABARA, and that goes to all the social media, the same thing.
No, thank you. And Kellyanne?
I typed mine's on there just because I know
it's easier
easy,
that
but
way.
it's on Instagram, Kelly.Ray.Jordan, and Just Friends the film.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, that wraps it up. And thank you so much for spending the time with us and sharing your amazing projects. Thank you again. And the films are online until October 2nd. And I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.